Welcome to All Things Moore County, Moore County's weekly radio show highlighting the many facets of the Sandhills. That includes real estate, lifestyle, community and neighborhoods. And now, from 4 Properties, here's your host, Bill Sahadi.
Good morning and welcome to the talk show, All Things Moore County. Dorothy, we're starting year 15 this August doing the show. Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
And in the course of all that time, you've heard me say in the past how provincial New Yorkers are. They think Baltimore is the Deep South.
Yes, they do.
They think Alabama is Pluto.
Yep.
Okay. Well, here in Moore County, and in particular in southern Moore County, we're going to make the argument today that people here are equally provincial, because we live in a little bit of a cocoon, and we sometimes don't look outside that bubble. But today we have a couple of guests who are going to help us look outside that bubble and look across the world. And we're talking about the Brook USA Foundation. And we're going to be speaking with Jim Hamilton, who is an executive committee chair, and he's also the owner of Southern Pines Equine Associates. He's a founding board member of Brook USA and has served on the board from 2007 to 2019, and he's just returned to the organization. And Kathy Virtue, who's a committee member, and she's a sponsor. And you might have looked at some media outlets locally and know that there is going to be a screening of a movie at the Sunrise Theater on Thursday, September 14th at 7 p.m. And it's a movie called EO. And Jim, I want to welcome you. And Kathy, thanks for coming back. You've been on the show before. I need a little bit of background information about the screening of this movie and what the Brook USA Foundation is.
So the movie hopes to enlighten the audience as to the plight of the average donkey in third world countries. Mm-hmm. Something that many of us in the U.S. Have no experience with. And it is as close to an authentic depiction of that donkey's life. The relationship to Brook USA Foundation is that we fund projects all over the world that hope to improve the welfare and quality of life of horses, donkeys, and mules, and just as importantly, the families that rely on those animals for their income and survival.
And their organic economies, which has nothing to do with the western part of the world of the U.S. I confess I had not heard of Brook USA Foundation, and you were kind enough to say to me, well, a lot of people have not, but this is an opportunity. How did you get the exclusive screening of this movie to come to Southern Pines?
When we learned about the movie, which, by the way, was produced in Poland, up for an Academy Award, it was so close to the mission of Brook USA that there was an instant desire to figure out how to gain access to it. And as it turns out, the managing group for the movie saw and appreciated the how close to our mission this movie was. So it was actually quite easy, quite honestly, to get access to it.
So the movie is really not from a person's perspective, but it's from the animal's perspective.
Yes, correct.
Which is unusual because we tend to see, being provincial, we tend to see everything from our perspective.
Right.
So you're asking people to have a shift in how they receive information. You are Brook's U.S. sister organization. It's an international organization.
is.
So, Brook USA started as an offshoot of that foundation.
Yeah, the foundation started in the United Kingdom right after World War One. Dorothea Brooke set to the task of acquiring as many of the horses after World War One that had been cast aside, and it was her mission to make whatever decisions that were in the best interest of those horses. And by the way, she at one point had something like 200,000 horses that she had taken responsibility for. So that's where the foundation, where Brooks started, was that long ago, and we at Brook USA are a sister organization that has set to the task of assisting and supplying funding for missions that are with Brook, but also other animal welfare opportunities around the world, and we're just very proud that we can sort of again be thinking about equine and the people that rely on them for their livelihood and survival.
We here in the United States see the world differently than the third world countries that you've mentioned, and it's really going to be an aha moment for a lot of people to perceive a reality they may never have known existed. Kathy, you're raising your hand?
No, that's me. A year and a half ago, I had never heard of Brook USA Foundation either.
Right.
And I think I'm pretty plugged in, and I had never heard of it.
I think you're pretty plugged in too.
And I've lived on a horse farm for over 30 years.
Yeah.
Jim has been my equine vet for all of that time.
Yeah.
And when he first mentioned to me about this organization, he left, cared for our horse. I went inside, looked it up, and I was fascinated, and I will tell you why it captured me. I had my aha moment.
Okay.
Is I have a donkey, precious little donkey named Ivy, who we just adore. More like a large Labrador retriever than really
Right.
a donkey.
Right.
And everyone loves her. We walk her on a lead line like you would a dog, all around the property, because no one obviously rides her. And so, anywho, when I saw this film, it had my worlds collide. I have a son, my sixth child we adopted from Kenya. And when I went every year to visit him before we brought him to the U.S., he was a villager. He lived out in the bush, and they used their donkeys, their mules, their cows, their animals to gather their water and bring it up from the river, which was a mile away.
Right.
And they get water once a day. They're loaded down to the point I was horrified. I didn't even know a cow or a donkey could be that thin. I'd never seen an animal that just that thin. And they're definitely there to work for the family. They're not there to be cared for. They work. And that's how they view them. And it's life-giving, life-altering. They have a job to do. And see, here, my donkey lives in a 6-acre pasture with a thoroughbred and just looks cute all day. Just looks darling. And my biggest problem with my donkey is I have to keep the weight off because she's fat. And she doesn't do a lot, but just look cute and eat.
Yeah.
So it's eye-opening. These folks that are going to come to the Sunrise Theater
Right.
are going to be blown away, as I was, about the reality of these animals.
Yeah. Jim?
And to add to that, I think it's important to realize that in significant portions of the world, a donkey or a horse or a mule is taking the place of a truck. Mm-hmm. And that's not necessarily a really obvious sort of thing to think about, but it's very, very true. There are places in India and Pakistan where they're producing bricks out of a brick kiln, and those donkeys are responsible for carrying just massive amount of weight in bricks in and out all day long. So, in addition to what they do for the family, they are working animals that are the sole source of income for maybe a family of four, one donkey. So there's the relationship. It's something that, again, we here in the United States just simply have never been exposed to.
When I heard you refer to the donkey as carrying water, we live in a world where you walk into the grocery store. There are 20 varieties of milk. Lactose-free, oat milk, almond milk, coconut milk, and water, bottled water, that purified, artesian well water. I mean, the choices, it's an abundance. That's our job, is to get out of the car and bring it back to our car. That's it. This is a completely different orientation you're
Yes.
talking about.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And then, I think it's important to also add that the people who are taking care of those animals often do not understand some key principles about caring for that animal out of ignorance, for the most part, and they fail to understand the benefits of taking better care, or learning how to take better care of that animal,
Right.
and the return to them and their family, right? If that animal is healthier and can do his or her job longer, live longer.
Right. The symbiotic relationship that you're talking about is foreign to us here.
Yeah.
But you're hoping that after the screening, there'll be a greater appreciation. I mean, the movie and the exclusive screening is a fundraiser. You're a nonprofit organization,
We are.
and part of the mission in raising monies is to make people aware, first and foremost, and that's a challenge. But once they're aware, it should become easier. There are many different ways that people can support Brook USA. I mean, Kathy, you're a sponsor
Yes.
for this event coming up. And you have traveled to some of these third world countries, and you've seen firsthand what Jim's talking about.
And that's why this became a mission for our foundation. We
Yeah.
not only have sponsored this event,
Yeah.
but we've made a pledge to Brook USA for, 5 or 10 years, so that we could put that into our foundation future of their strategic plan. We've included them because this is so important. I just don't think people are aware of the plight until you go to these countries. I've been to India 3 or 4 times, Africa, a couple dozen times. And what I always leave with is my heart is broken
Right.
over what I see happening to these animals. And you're caught, as Jim said, they don't understand. They're not doing it out of unkindness or they want to hurt the animal at all. They just have no idea that just a few simple things would help that animal so much and would give that animal many more productive years for them if we could get that point across. So I think if we could get the folks here,
Right.
who, as you said, are generous and kind, provincial, I think you said.
Yes.
And if we could get them to understand the message.
Right.
Jim shared the message with me. I shared that message with probably 20 others.
Right.
Now this event's coming here. We will touch 275 to 300 lives. A fun thing we're bringing is the Boys and Girls Club of the Sandhills is coming to join us before the event takes place. And the children are coming out to meet donkeys. I think we have a large donkey. I have a mini donkey. And the kids are going to get their pictures made and hear about this story. And they're going to use it as a teaching moment to the Boys and Girls Clubs here. We're going to be
Fantastic.
one of their educational hours.
They're actually coming on the show at the end of September to talk about their big October event.
Right.
But getting to the children, it's almost like going into the schools and getting kids aware so they grow up to be caring adults, right?
Exactly.
And that's a great life lesson that you can give them, and it would leave them an indelible impression. One of the things you haven't said in talking about caring for the animals, better care, you're also at the same time caring for the people, and you're preserving their economies, as organic as they may be, because the result, if you cannot protect them, they could be subject to, the world is a crazy place, they might vanish, be taken over, these third world countries. You want them to preserve their way of life.
And that's a good lead-in, I think, to a discussion we should have
Yep.
about sort of yet another layer of the onion that had a devastating effect, and that is the donkey hide problem. Background on that is that there is a process that goes on with the donkey hide that yields a substance that primarily the Chinese economy uses as a health medicine of sorts.
Right. Let's pick that up at the beginning of the next set, if we can.
Okay.
We're speaking all about the Brook USA Foundation and an upcoming exclusive screening of an Academy Award nominated movie called EO at the Sunrise Theater at 7 p.m. on the 14th of September. We'll be right back. Welcome back to our second set of All Things Moore County. We have a lot to talk about with Brook USA Foundation. They are hosting a screening of an Academy Award movie at the Sunrise Theater on September the 14th, which is a Thursday at 7 p.m. And Jim Hamilton and Kathy Virtue are our guests, and they're both intrinsically involved in the foundation. And you were ending the first set, Jim, talking about the donkey skin trade, essentially, and what is going on that you're trying to make people aware of.
So there is a process by which the hide is processed and a medicinal Chinese medicine is yielded from it, and the demand for it, as it turns out, has been so high, such that the donkey population around the world has been just decimated. And they are not only raising donkeys both in Africa as well as China as we would cattle, purely for the purpose of getting the hide.
And that hide it's an oil that's used for cosmetics.
And consumption,
Okay.
as they believe it has some health benefits. So the problem is the supply cannot match the demand, and so what's happening, particularly in Africa, is that the donkeys are being stolen from the families that use need that donkey and use that donkey as a source of family income and so forth, and they're stealing those donkeys and slaughtering them for the hides.
And who are they?
They might be other Kenyans, as an example, which is sort of the really one of the biggest countries that has this problem.
The hub.
Yep, is the hub, and they it might be your neighbor.
So
it might be your neighbor who needs the money.
So they're basically selling the hides to the Chinese?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So the killing can happen within the country with the same countrymen who are using the animals for survival.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay.
that's correct. And some of those, sadly, very, very sadly, some of those animals are actually being stolen, taken to the backwoods, quote unquote, and just slaughtered in the bush. Because again, all they want is the hide from the animal. The result of all of this is that the numbers of the donkey population around the world has gone down dramatically, and as it turns out, we have some direct interest and leverage in this country because, as it turns out, the United States is the third largest consumer of those products, that e-jow.
Oh, is that right?
Yes. And so from that perspective, we can sort of say, okay, how are they getting this product? What mail order? What sort of what is the source? What is the source in this country? And can we stop the sale of that that e-jow here in the United States as just our effort to sort of turn the tide?
You say the leading importers in the world, and it's pronounced e-jow?
E-jow.
E-jow. Okay. The importers are China and Hong Kong, but the U.S. accounts for 12 million in annual imports each year.
Yes.
So they use it also for the same reasons here.
Yes. Asian population, yes.
I live in a bubble. I believe it, but we're not made aware of any of this, right? It goes on. We live our lives, and we don't even know.
So advocacy in this case is just critical.
Yeah.
Even though it may be a very small subset of us in the United States that recognizes the injustice that is going on around the world as it relates to this particular issue, somebody has got to stand up. Somebody has got to convince the powers that be that we do, in fact, have leverage to some extent over certainly its use and sale in this country. And so advocacy is critical, and actually we're working with the Washington power base to attempt to get a law that would prevent its sale.
Yeah. Today you can watch a 24-hour news broadcast, and they cut to commercials. You've seen them. And they stage dogs, kittens that have been abused. And they say for so much a month you can help and save an animal that has been abused. How is the charity, the Brook Foundation, how is it set up differently than some of the charities we get bombarded with on TV? It just hits us all the time, and most of it, I think, falls off our shoulder. We feel badly. We watch starving children. Again, it's staged, but I'm sure it's all real. People sometimes want to know that if they are donating money, that the money is going directly to the cause and not paying very high administrative costs and this and that. Have you had to address that?
Well, actually, if one were to go to the Brook USA website,
yes,
brookusa.org, all of that is completely transparent.
Right.
All of that is listed
right.
in terms of where every dollar goes.
Right.
And it's important to understand that our role is to raise funds.
Right.
And then administer those funds to projects around the world that have greatest merit. And that in fact is what our board does all year long. So we're constantly evaluating where we can spend every single dollar in a way that has the greatest impact.
And their website, if I can come alongside of Jim's comment, when I went to the website before we would sponsor or donate or
Right.
become, a supporting partner,
Right.
I was fascinated by their cost administration versus what they actually get out, and it's fabulous. Their website is well done; it's well documented, a lot of transparency there, and for those of us that see this type of thing all the time, you mentioned the starving children, the little puppy from the
Yeah.
Humane Society, and all
Yeah,
of that.
right.
I don't think we quite realize the slaughtering that's happening, as Jim talked about.
Right.
And then what happens when you go to a third world country and you see the plight of these families, especially that live in the bush, that really do use these donkeys. Someone, a neighbor, someone from another village can come over and realize I get paid more for stealing all these donkeys in this village. It's all about how to feed my family. How do I get enough food on the table?
Exactly.
Because I've got 8 kids. We all live in a hut, and there's not enough food. So if somebody approaches them and says, I need you to steal me 50 donkeys from this village, we're going to slaughter them and take the hides out during the night, that's going to happen. That's just going to happen. That's as simple as it is. So we've got to build awareness, and then I think be good advocates. I went ahead and read, saw the mission, and we chose to give.
Right.
So I think once you make people aware
Right.
of the plight,
Right.
I think that then people want to step up and help. Because remember, these animals can't speak for themselves. They can't, there's no voice there. So we have to be the voice. And that's what I love about Brook USA.
Right.
I love that they're willing to do that.
Right.
And when we talk about advocacy, I think it's important to also realize that we have to go to these governments. I'll pick Kenya because it is sort of the hub in Africa. We as an organization address this issue with them and negotiate the strongest response that we can. So we're trying to address this on several different levels. Yeah, there were several slaughterhouses in Kenya that are now closed, thanks in part to Brook USA.
Wow. That's
That's big.
making a difference.
Yeah.
I can't help but sit here and listen to you, and I'm very impressed by your passion. During the screening, will you be speaking to the people who come? Will you be addressing them? What will the evening look like? You'll have the screening, but it's an educational forum in a way, isn't it?
Yes. So before the actual screening, I will address the audience, but more importantly, in my mind, Dr. David Jones, who is the past chair of Brook USA and past chair of Brook UK, as we describe them, and he was actually the curator of our North Carolina Zoo for some 25 years. And just to add to that, was the head of the London Zoo for, I think, 15 years before that. So this is a man who comes to the table with an immense amount of experience and history, not only in the sort of the animal kingdom realm, but also specifically with Brook USA and its mission. So he'll be giving a short presentation before the movie.
And you mentioned you're going to have your donkey at the event.
Yes, we're going to have 2, and obviously where the Sunrise Theater is, right next door is that nice green lawn.
Yes.
So we're going to have the hour, with the kids, and then we're going to have a press half
That's
hour,
great, yeah.
where we're going to have people can ask questions. We have a wonderful local artist that has done a portrait of a donkey that is spectacular, and that will be auctioned off that night. And really, then the VIP guests get to come in a little bit early before the movie screening and get to have information, time with board members, really ask questions, and meet the donkeys. And then we'll all go on inside and the evening will begin. But what I'm excited about is to think that this community, who I know to be a generous community,
Right. That's right.
is about to experience
Right.
something that I don't think they're aware is happening. And I think that's a wonderful thing to bring here.
And social media for all of its drawbacks, it's also a tremendous way to get the word out. And I'm sure you'll have some videos being shot at the event for people who can't come. And if I can correct myself, the event starts at 6 p.m. on the 14th, I guess. The screening maybe is at 7,
7.
Yes.
but the 6 p.m. would be the start time for the entire event. Is that correct?
Yes, the doors will open at 6.
Okay.
The doors will open at 6, and there'll be refreshments, and there'll be, we'll have out on the lawn again those donkeys with a little VIP area and so forth. But yes, we encourage people to come and pet the donkey and look at a couple of items that we're going to auction off, and it'll be I think a really fun night.
I've never lived on a farm. I was born in Brooklyn, New York, so it's not my fault. But my perception of donkeys has always been they're very genteel in nature, gentle, loyal, like you said, a big lab, right? Is that the case about
Not
their
mine.
persona?
Mine would kick your lights out.
Oh,
Do
is
you
that
know? I'm going
right?
to tell a
There you
2-second
go.
story on Dr. Hamilton here. He came, to vaccinate all of our animals. We had
Yep.
3 horses, a large pony for my kids, and then our donk.
Okay.
And so he came, vaccinates everybody, draws their blood, does their yearly checkup. My donkey was so bad, kicking and just a little spoiled booger,
Oh, okay.
that he looked at me and said, "You know what? We're not vaccinating the donkey today." Got in their truck and they left. And he did not get his shots because he was being so bad.
Gotcha.
They're ornery.
So, there-
Ornery.
so how much do I know? Okay.
Would you say that's right, Jim?
That
Some
is
of
very
them are
correct.
ornery as
That
best.
is absolutely correct.
They are honorary.
Oh, and if my thoroughbred, who's enormous, gets a little too close to my donkey, she turns around and does her little kick out, with her back feet to try to kick this enormous horse. And would you believe my horse is afraid of that donkey? He moves out of the way.
This donkey looks lovable,
That's exactly what my donkey looks like right there.
genteel, not a bad mood in their future. Interesting. We're going to come back in the third set. We'll continue the conversation with Brook USA Foundation, empowering equines and empowering people at the same time. Welcome back to our final set of All Things Moore County. Brook USA Foundation is going to make a big presence in Southern Pines in 2 weeks, September the 14th at the Sunrise Theater. They're going to let people see another side of the world, and through a screening of an Academy Award nominated movie called EO, which I have to confess, I asked you before we started taping. I didn't know what the title meant, and you let me off the hook. You didn't make me feel stupid. I took care of that myself. It's the sound that the donkey makes.
Yes. Yes.
And that title, I'm wondering why they named it EO, because it doesn't tell people a lot other than the sound of the donkey. Any backstory to that?
Not that I'm necessarily aware of. I can fill in the gap, I suppose, with my own sort of opinion. First of all, as you and I talked about before this interview, we don't historically we really have had almost no examples of where we've done a production, a movie, through the eyes of the animal.
Right, as a protagonist.
Yes, and I have a feeling that that those that put this movie together felt like that really all they wanted you to know was this is a donkey, and they don't have a lot to say other than EO. And what they do with the rest of their life, quite frankly, is up to us.
Right.
Is our responsibility.
Right.
And that's really what the movie's about.
It hit me that my donkey, when it's hungry, EO, out in the pasture.
Okay.
My donkey's only word it ever says to me is EO.
Okay.
That's all that they say. So in my mind, when I saw this,
Yep.
it immediately sparked, that's all the donkey can say. The rest is up to us. So the movie is the cry
Right.
of the donkey, the EO, which
Good.
is, if you listen to any donkey in a pasture, that's what they
Right.
cry out.
You're talking to a kid who never grew up on a farm. I can't hide it. Your board comes from all different corners of this country. I noticed California, Maryland, here, but you've sort of made Southern Pines the epicenter of Brook USA Foundation, is it not?
Yes, it is. It is. We are an equine loving community, and it is to me the logical place to gather the brain trust of those that care about horses, donkeys, and mules, and help figure out how we can best support them. So yes, Southern Pines is the perfect location.
Yeah. The other thing, going back to the conversation we were having about how your charity was set up, all the board members, they're not salaried. You are volunteering.
All volunteer, yes.
Your passion, your time, your energy, and the mission that you are all undertaking has to come from a spot of strong dedication and belief, and it makes you very credible when you communicate. You're not doing. There's no financial. The monies that come into the charity go to the charity. The administrative costs are minimal.
Correct.
People need to know that too, because some people, unfortunately, they're a little jaded, and we get inundated with charities and causes, and people want to give, and this is a very giving community. But people also want to be selective, and they want to know more about the charity than they might. Beyond the movie, beyond the screening, September the 14th, does Brook USA Foundation have an agenda, a plan going forward, different events? Do you partner up on street fairs, at the Carolina Horse Park? How else do you get the word out? Through the website?
Through the website, but events of a different nature, but nonetheless fundraising events.
Yeah.
Are happening in Aiken, South Carolina, and over in Tryon, North Carolina, in Wellington, Florida, in Lexington, Kentucky, coming up in about a month. Mm-hmm. So we are spending, it seems to me, an inordinate amount of time trying to educate or introduce this very important topic to a population within the U.S. that as we've talked about really has little to no exposure to. That's a challenge, and the only way it seems to me that we can accomplish our goal is in fact to hold these events and to educate as we can, and hope, as Kathy said, that that one turns into 20 and the 20 talk to another 50, and so theoretically over time we've now elevated the conversation to a point where we can maybe understand what's going on outside our borders.
Emily Doolin, the chief CEO,
She is.
She supplied me with so much great information and a link, a YouTube link. It was a 3-minute spot. It slowed me down just watching it. Sometimes you just keep clicking and moving on. And I stopped and I sat back to watch it. And we'll post that YouTube video for people to see. It's a short, sweet message, but it's very direct.
And people can go to the Sunrise Theater to purchase their tickets. They're $25. The VIP tickets are $75, which means you come in and do the donkey meeting and all kinds of fun things beforehand. But for just a listener of this show that has been intrigued by what's been said here today,
Yes.
you can go online and purchase your tickets today, or you can go to the Sunrise Theater ticket office and get your tickets.
And I feel good about the information that one can get from the brookusa.org website.
Yes.
I mean, it really it makes the point, both in photography and the written word. And so if you're intrigued about this topic, I would encourage you to spend just a little bit of time at the website.
Podcasts are a great way to get information out, and Nicola Squires from Carolina Full Motion does a great job, and she will be putting together this show with a pictorial, and hopefully, and seeing the visuals with the words will get people enrolled very quickly. I'm looking forward to seeing what that video looks like, and we will give it to you.
Thank you.
And we wish you the best for the 14th. I hope your turnout is terrific. And, this is a small town, and people talk. So the people that don't go, who couldn't make it, it's like going to a restaurant. If you have a good meal, you're going to tell 10 of your friends.
Exactly.
God forbid you have a bad meal.
Because then you tell 20.
Then you tell, right, and they tell, right. And they already become experts on that restaurant. But Jim, it was great to see you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Absolutely.
And Kathy, it's great to see you as well. And thanks for bringing your passion along today.
Thank you for having us.
September the 14th at the Sunrise Theater. The screening is EO. It's an exclusive screening here in Southern Pines. And we look forward to seeing you that evening. Have a great week. Thank you.